Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, please be standing for the worship of the Mayor, accompanied by the Chief Executive.
Will everybody please remain standing for 1 minute, silence for Wendy McLaughlin, who passed away recently and is a free woman of this town. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
Chairman, can I make a comment about the sounds we just had? Sorry, Chair, can I speak to the sounds that we just had, please? Okay, thank you. As most people know, Wendy McLaughlin was quite an inspirational lady who lived her life in this town quite selflessly and helped establish a significant movement in this town to support children with disabilities and their families. I'm particularly very honoured to have got Wendy a friend. I was very honoured to take over from her as the manager of Hartlepool Families Fest nearly 10 years ago, when she sadly Fest took ill. But her legacy and her work that she'd undertaken for the 20 years before then, and all of the involvement with organisations like Hartlepool Special Needs Support Group, couldn't have been done without Wendy's involvement. And she's had an absolute legacy that she leaves in this town with the fantastic work that still goes on. I'm very proud to have called her a friend, and I think this council needs to set on record the great work that Wendy did to support families and children with disabilities across the town.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Can we welcome everybody to this extraordinary council meeting, 24th of November, and can we receive apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've received notification of apologies from Councillor Buchan, Lawton, Lindridge, Sears and Tempest.
No. Thank you. To receive any declarations of interest by members? No. Item 3, to deal with any business required by statute to be done before any other business. There is none. We will move on to item 4, the one item of business tonight, and that is the Tees Valley Combined Authority. And I'll hand over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of the report is to seek Council's approval to give consent to the laying of an order before Parliament that would determine the powers and functions of the Tees Valley Combined Authority following its establishment of the Mayoral Combined Authority under the Devolution Act. Similar reports are being presented to all 5 borough councils across Tees Valley in their capacity as constituent councils in the current cycle of meetings, and indeed I think Hartlepool's decision is one of the last in that cycle. And provided all councils have given their consent, along with with the Combined Authority. The order will be laid by Parliament, by the Secretary of State before Parliament. The intention was for the Combined Authority to hold a meeting to hear the outcome of each constituent council meeting or cabinet tomorrow. However, this has been deferred because we are awaiting the actual final order. As you have been aware, what is before you tonight is the draft, kind of the final draft order, and we're waiting the final order before we need to finally determine the consent of the Combined Authority. So that meeting has been delayed. By way of background, because this has been quite a complex process, in October, November 2015, all 5 Tees Valley authorities gave their approval or approval in principle to a historic devolution deal being signed. And as outlined in that agreement, a number of powers and functions are to be devolved from central government to the Tees Valley Combined Authority. But as part of that process, there will be also a directly elected mayor who would chair the Combined Authority. The report details the process that we've been through, but there's been some, under 2.2, some important key steps have taken place since that time. In April 2016, the Combined Authority itself was established as a statutory vehicle, as a legal body in its own right. Up until that point, the authorities have been working under a partnership and in partnership with the Local Enterprise Council. But from the 1st of April, a Combined Authority was formed. And subsequently to that, and taking account of the approval up to the devolution deal, the first stage of an order being made to Parliament was determined, which effectively created the office of mayor and provided for the election of a mayor to take place on the 4th of May. However, what we do not have at this stage is the important order which agrees the powers and functions of the mayor, and that's what's before you tonight. So I'm quite important to understand this has been a complex stage process, and this is the final bit of the jigsaw, which if it isn't in place, effectively we would not be able to go ahead with the devolved arrangements as been agreed. The report gives information in section 3 on the history, if you like, towards the establishment of the Combined Authority, which builds on about 20 years of effective working across Tees Valley, built on collaboration and consensus, and that has driven forward a number of key plans and strategies which have helped boost the economic growth of the area. And section 4 outlines the detail of the devolution deal, which was agreed in October, and which has been subject to further negotiation and clarification over the last period of time, last year. And effectively, just to remind you, the devolution deal included a commitment by order of Parliament of £15 million additional investment to the Tees Valley for 30 years. And the first of that annual instalment has actually been received, and plans are being considered and will be consulted on around how that's taken forward. It also provided for additional flexibilities, which gives the Combined Authority over the next 5 years, for example, an additional £500 million programme of investment into physical infrastructure projects. And into development of adult skills, and in terms of improving skills and outcomes for young people. There will be a pot of about £500 million which will be determined through the Combined Authority's arrangements. The Combined Authority will also have the ability to establish locally led development corporations to help unblock and take forward stalled sites. For example, the SSI site is a site which could well be subject to this, which would be a development company which would have powers which would be under local democratic control, unlike previous development corporations which have acted outside of democratic control. This would be a development corporation which could unblock brownfield sites particularly in order to bring about economic growth. It also provides for the establishment of a land commission to identify brownfield sites which are in public sector ownership held by central government, which could again be brought into the ownership of under the influence and determined in terms of its future development by the any development company. So an opportunity to actually identify sites which could again come under local determination rather than national determination. It provides for support for Tees Valley key transport infrastructure projects as part of the Transport for the North, and we've heard through the autumn statement about the priority being given to the A66. And it also provides for a number of different powers and projects being devolved to local determination in terms of the skills and business support agenda. Government guidance is that being a mayoral combined authority with a local devolution deal would also give a particular advantage to devolved combined authorities in additional local growth funding. And again, there was an announcement in the autumn statement yesterday concerning the local growth fund allocations for the Northern Powerhouse area, and the devolved authorities will be getting a higher per capita allocation than elsewhere as part of the allocation of that fund. The mayoral order, which is being considered at the moment, builds on the order which provided for an election of mayor, but just to remind you, this order is about the powers and functions that the mayor would have. And there has been consultation carried out by the Tees Valley Combined Authority on those powers, which took place for a six-week period from July to August. Across the whole of the Tees Valley, 1,160 people and organisations responded. In Hartlepool, we were the only council that leafleted every household to draw residents' attention to the consultation, and as a consequence, Hartlepool had the highest residents' response rate. In the analysis that's been undertaken by the Combined Authority, key themes were identified about the views of businesses and residents regarding the Combined Authority, and effectively there is strong support for the Combined Authority having a constitution which has in place very strong checks and balances to make sure that the mayor cannot operate in an autonomous, unfettered way. And again, what is before you tonight is the constitution that's been drawn up and consulted on by the Combined Authority, which seeks to put those checks and balances in place. The key aim of the Constitution is that the Combined Authority should work by consensus, that the mayor would not be able to take a decision which did not have either the unanimous or the majority support of all of the constituent members of the Combined Authority. That was set out in the devolution deal, but following the devolution deal, the leaders of the constituent councils have been in quite hard negotiations with ministers to secure even further checks and balances than those that were agreed in the devolution deal. And effectively what has been agreed, in addition to the checks and balances that we agreed around majority voting and unanimous decision making, was that the role of the deputy mayor, which would step in for the mayor in the absence of the mayor, would be rotated. It wouldn't be an office approved by the mayor. It would be, excuse me, could we have some silence in the chamber, please, whilst I'm presenting my report? So that the office of deputy mayor would be appointed by the leaders and or nominated by the leaders and appointed by the mayor on a rotation basis. The arrangements around the budgeting strategy can be rejected by a majority of leaders. In the other devolved combined authorities, the threshold is 2/3. The definition of majority voting would be a simple majority, and the mayor would not have a casting vote. That in some votes, where there is a significant financial impact, it would require the leaders of the council effectively having a veto, because it would require a unanimous decision, and highways and planning powers will remain with the individual councils. There will be no powers that currently the local authorities hold that will be doubled up or become subject to determination by the combined authority. The powers that the combined authority will hold will be powers that will be devolved down by Whitehall, and therefore they are decisions that are currently taken by Whitehall, which sometimes can get caught up in red tape and bureaucracy, and certainly not influenced by local need. Effectively, a number of key checks and balances have been agreed. 7.6 decision table identifies what those checks and balances are. Importantly tonight, not only are you being asked to consider the order, you are asked to also consider and give your views on the Constitution, which will also be fed through to the combined authority. So the next steps are that all 5 borough councils are to meet. There is only, I think, ourselves and Darlington tonight who are still to determine, and the other authorities have already determined their position. The Tees Valley Combined Authority will meet as soon as possible to finally consider the order, and the Secretary of State will then lay that order before Parliament, leading to the election taking place on the 8th of May. So in conclusion, just to remind everybody, the main focus of the Combined Authority is to drive forward strategies and plans and investment which will boost the economic growth and prosperity of Tees Valley, and Hartlepool is an important part of the Tees Valley economic functioning. It will make some important decisions around finance, which were previously determined by Whitehall, and certainly if we are not at the table, we will not be able to influence that decision. But I do recognise that the role of elected mayor is a contentious one, and there is a great deal of scepticism about that role. What I think that the leaders and mayors have been able to secure is some very strong checks and balances to make sure that the mayor will work as part of a cabinet approach, on a team-based approach, and will not be able to make decisions without taking the majority of all of the local authorities with them, as set out in Table 7.6. Therefore, my recommendations are set out in 11.1, which is that I'm recommending that Council is asked to agree to consent being given to the proposed order as appended to Appendix B, and that subject to this being agreed, that authority is delegated to the Chief Executive in consultation with the leader of the Council to give the Council's final consent to the order made when requested by the Secretary of State. If the final order that we received departed significantly from what has come before you tonight, then my proposal would be to bring it back before Council, and that the Council would consider the content of the Constitution and provide any comment or consideration by the Combined Authority that we can pass on. The reasons for my recommendations are set out clearly in 12.A and B. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Raymond Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a question, it's a simple comment. I'd like to start by saying the Conservative group are diametrically opposed to having an elected mayor for Teesside. We successfully campaigned against the continuation of an elected mayor for Hartlepool, so why on earth would we be in favour for one for Teesside? We've looked closely at what's on offer, including the latest information from the Chancellor announced yesterday, and feel confident that we can confirm the following. 1. Hartlepool will receive exactly the same basic government grant no matter what we decide tonight. 2. Hartlepool Council will still be in charge of its day-to-day running of its own services, including social care, refuse collection, schools, planning and highways, again no matter what we decide tonight. 3. Any extra funding above and beyond the basic government grant will only be available through membership of an elected mayoral combined authority. 4. If Hartlepool wants a share of any future extra funding from government, the only option is to be a member of that combined authority. 5. If Hartlepool wants to block or veto a decision of the combined authority, it can only do so by being a member. What we're faced with, members, is a simple decision to be part of something we do not like, but have the opportunity to have a say and benefit from it, or to exclude our town from any possibility of extra government funding for possibly generations to come. And it is for this reason, and this reason alone, that the Conservative group, and I hope many other sensible, conscientious councillors, will reluctantly support the consent before us this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Any further comments from anybody? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I feel a bit rose between two thoughts to repeat tonight. The first thing I'd say is I still maintain the point that I made last year that this is not a good deal for Hartlepool. 15 million between 5 local authorities per year on the acceptance that we take of the mayor is not a good deal. And actually, after some of the points that the Chief Executive said to me, I actually question if we need to take a mayor to be able to take that money. Because it's just been said that whilst we don't have a mayor this year, we've still managed to take the 15 million. So I would question that point. Second thing is that last year when we voted on this, I'm reminded of some comments that the leader made to the Hartlepool Mayor in 2012 when we were talking about a mayoral referendum. Now, the people in Hartlepool should be given the right to have a choice on how they govern. And again, that's been denied from them tonight. There was a mention of the press release of 500 million that went to the Hartlepool Mayor yesterday, and I immediately emailed the Chief Executive and asked for some details of where that came from. And looking through those details, whilst that money may come, it's also a case that some of it may come without the mayor as well, and some of that's not tied into the mayor. So I question that. But then I also question, what's the point? What's the point of the mayor? It's just been said there that the mayor will not have any decision-making powers and that the councils can block that on consensus. So what's the point? I also think that maybe, I could probably get in trouble for this, maybe the leader agrees with me. What's the point? And maybe that's why he's not attended many of the combined authority meetings this year. Maybe. We're also facing a very interesting position that we're about to vote for something that, and I recall saying this last year, I'll take great pleasure saying I told you so, we still don't know the cost of. We don't know how much the mayor's going to be paid. We don't know what the cost of his office are going to be, or her office. We don't know the cost of administrating that mayor's function is going to be. We know nothing. Yet we're still being asked to go out and blindly vote into this. I also question as well, what's classed as a significant change? It's just been said that we'll only bring this back, this is a draft order, and it will only come back to the floor of council if there's a significant change. And the rest of that will be voted upon by two individuals. I don't understand what a significant change is. So therefore, I would encourage all members, including the sensible ones, to follow the lead that was set in by the Tyneside councils, withdraw from it tonight. Withdraw from it and have the nerve. We're a big town with a big heart. Let's go slow.
If I could just clarify, Mr. Mayor, the issue of the 15 million, my understanding is that's a payment that's been made this year, subject to the orders being laid. We are sure at the moment, and we haven't spent any of the money yet because we don't know who to pay the money back if the consent isn't given. We're also unclear at the moment about because this is a new legal landscape, what the position would be if one authority did not consent and the others did. And I think that is a matter that DCLG are yet to give advice.
Thank you, Councillor Riddle.
Thank you, Chair. I guess what we're ignoring tonight, initially, or I guess what people maybe are hoping we ignore tonight, is the rather large elephant in the room in the form of the fundamental principles of democracy. And 2016 has been a funny old year for democracy. We've seen 17.4 million people vote to leave the EU, which left 1 million people very disappointed. But that's democracy. We saw 64 million people vote for Hillary Clinton in America. 62 million people voted for Donald Trump. But he won. That's democracy under their system. And here in Hartlepool, we have thousands of people, and I can show you there were thousands of rational, sensible, free-thinking, aspirational people who actually grin and bear it when Christopher got 828 votes in 20,000 maintained his seat. And I didn't like that, but it's democracy. And what we do tonight, as was said a year ago by many people, isn't democratic, or at least it's not a true democracy, until we put this decision before the people who live in this town. Now, I know that my words in this chamber, they often fall on deaf ears with some of the other members in this council. My words, no matter how sensible, how rational, how articulate, how well thought out, I know they carry little weight. So I'm going to use my words tonight. I'm going to use the words of some of the members of the Labour Group. I'd like to start with quoting Councillor James, if I may. Speaking about the electoral mayoral system in 2015, Councillor James said, "No one in this chamber has fought a locally elected mayoral system harder than I did. I actually despise this type of governance." She despises this type of governance, but tonight, what we're probably witness is that she'll vote for it. That's not democracy. That's hypocrisy, but it's not democracy. Then there's the words of Stephen Akers Belcher, speaking about devolution in July 2015, in which he described devolution as a honey trap designed to solve big issues and problems in local government. And a honey trap is a process by which you entice people into something to do something very, very wise by offering them a tempting offer, like £15 million extra per year, for example, in exchange for signing away to raising your autonomy. But tonight, as with Councillor James, I suspect that we'll see Stephen vote for the honey trap, and you can see right there in front of it. Again, not democracy, hypocrisy. And as Paul has said tonight, the quote right here, the biggest hypocrite in the room at the moment is Christopher Akers Belcher, whose quote here is, "It is only right and proper that the people of Hartlepool are given an opportunity to indicate how they wish to be governed." That is hypocrisy. I don't entirely agree with Paul in that I would like to put this decision to the will of the people. So I'm not necessarily saying completely pull out tonight. I'm saying let's pause this situation, put it to the residents of our town via a referendum, and actually give them some democratic process.
Any further comments, please? Sorry, Councillor Moore. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in an awkward situation, really. I like the idea of the combined authority in that the local authorities within the Tees Valley working together with resources and working on a shared aim is a good thing. It's something we should be working towards. However, I do genuinely oppose a directly elected mayor for the Tees Valley region. The Chief Executive mentioned there that consultation went out around the area and that Hartlepool had the highest response rate, I'm led to believe. 90% of those who did respond from Hartlepool made comments to which were negative towards either the combined authority or to the elected mayor. What annoys me about the consultation is it seems as if the same people who ran this consultation do all of the consultations to the NHS Trust, because what they've said is we realise 90% of people oppose it, but you haven't answered the question we wanted you to answer, so we're going to ignore it. And therefore, the people who actually answered the question, of those people, guess what? You all fantastically support the idea, and I just think it's farcical. I still haven't decided how I'm going to go tonight, I'll be perfectly honest, but I've got a feeling that it is going to be passed. And if it is going to be passed, I'd like to see some further checks and balances placed on it, placed on the elected mayor and the Tees Valley Combined Authority through this council. One of which, if you check section 7.6, the second key decision in there, which considered the elected mayor being able to set a transport levy under section 74 of the Local Government Finance Act. Granted in there, it says that for an elected mayor to do that, there would need to be a unanimous decision made by all of the Tees Valley local authority leaders, which is fine. But personally, I would like to see that if any extra levy is going to be placed on this town, it should be coming to this council first, and then our representative take it to the combined authority. If we reject it, then that's how it needs to be. And I think the same principle applies from what I just said there to various other committees and cabinet positions that will sit on the combined authority. It shouldn't just be the cabinet member going off and making decisions on their own or by the will of their political party. It should be coming to the council, and we should be discussing it, and it's fed through that way. Only by doing that will we ensure that the devolution deal is kind of working by feeding the decisions down to the base level and then feeding them back up. And so I would hope that somebody else would second me in saying that checks need to be put in place like that for this council to feed stuff back.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
Yeah, I came in for the Council Chamber this morning, this evening. The parallel universe at the moment for two reasons. First of all, the Executive Mayor, Martin Wells, mentioned that. And also, the first time I've ever put my back to residents of Hartlepool at the moment. We are always face to face with residents in my ward at the moment. In the 2015 election, I was run down by one street in Burn Valley because a number of residents came out of the streets, and the issue was the referendum, Tees Valley, executive there devolved. I was run down for that street. And remember Jonathan Brash, he used to be voted the referendum last year, and I think the cost of the referendum was about 93,000. When you look at the spend in the year about Jackson's Landing, demolishing Jackson's Landing, refurbishment of Church Street, and now the refurbishment of this chamber, it's absolute disgrace. So that would be the money for the referendum last year. On the Northern Powerhouse, it's a bit of a script at the moment. I think it's not arrived, it's not functioning at the moment. And now we've got 500 million from the central government. I got my calculator out, and when you divided the 500 million with 5 years, divided by 5 boroughs, and then you look at the percentage of Hartlepool in the 5 boroughs is 14.5%. So if you divide that by the residents in Hartlepool, £152 every resident in Hartlepool. So that was 500 million is divided. And also there is a clause in the devolved documents at the moment about the majority. I'm not sure in the future, but it's not accepted. But there was a majority with Middlesbrough, Stockton and Redcar.
Can you wind up, please, Councillor Hall?
So,
Can you wind up, please?
no, I'm finished now. Just a sentence. The Middlesbrough, Stockton and Redcar outside of Darlington and Hartlepool, so that would be the majority, so that would be that. And I know that one or two of the members are...
Councillor Hall, you've had your 3 minutes. Will you please wind up?
It's an important decision to make here.
I'm not doing... Okay, right. Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
It's
Councillor Tennant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, what to say that devolved powers are generally a good step forward, because as you're removing Westminster forces are not sound. However, the proposals for a new body, Tees Valley Combined Authority, and an ineffective lame duck mayor is not a devolution deal as we prefer it to be. The fact that the failure to properly offer referendum combined authority has left many people feeling confused, ill-informed and left out of this process. Beyond absolutely no illusions, this new body could actually one day replace local councils and dilute the connection between local councillors and their ward residents. We in the UKIP group have had reservations about this since the beginning, and those concerns are still relevant this evening. And I must say that the point at which we are at now has been greatly, deeply undemocratic. There has been no opportunity for people to have a real say on whether they want to be part of this deal in the first place, or indeed whether they want to.
Thank you very much. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the reality is that the public, as well as ourselves, are sceptical about this whole situation. So I'd like to move, or second in a sense, Councillor Bill's original motion, that we have a referendum on mayor.
Well done.
Can we have a decision on that, please, Mr. Devlin?
I'm afraid actually we are past referendum. We had a situation actually whereby we had a full debate previously in council prior basically to the meeting that you had actually on the 12th of November 2015. That actually gave authority to the devolution deal and therefore authority to form the combined authority from the 1st of April this year, and thereafter, as part of the devolution deal, we now have a situation whereby we have provision for election of mayor 4th of May next year. So all we have this evening actually is important because you have actually going to be there. What would be the powers and functions of that mayor and the relationship of that mayor with combined authority? And therefore that's why your consent is asked as regards that particular order. As regards actually the nature actually of a referendum about a mayor, we've now gone past that. We now have a situation whereby we have, say, a Hughes Valley combined authority election mayor order, and therefore we have actually placed position for election of mayor next year, albeit at this point in time, the powers and functions of that mayor have not yet been determined, and upon which the constituent councils have been asked for their consent. So as regards the referendum, it's gone past that stage.
Yes, Councillor Black.
Peter, is it past the point of having a referendum on the mayor's powers?
Not strictly, but the dilemma is any referendum on this basically say referendum by statute, for example, going beyond your threshold for your council tax, for example, is non-binding. It's merely persuasive. And also actually the cost. Paul mentioned a cost of about 93,000. No, we run the base of about £2, £2.50 on a base actually of a postal return. So on a electorate of about 70,000, we probably look towards anywhere from about 150 to about £250,000 to have a referendum. What you did decide on the 12th of November 2015 was two matters. First of all, you wish to see fully the constitution of the emerging mayoral combined authority. That's the Appendix C. But also there should be engagement through this council with its community, and hence the reference there to the 40,000 this communication to all households.
They never even got sent.
Excuse me, please.
They never got sent.
Excuse me, will you be quiet, please?
Which is something which wasn't done by other constituent councils. So certainly we've gone one step beyond the other constituent councils. So you have endeavoured from your meeting in November 2015 to fully adopt looking at the constitution, and actually members from here, we have 3 members comments upon that constitutional regime fed back to the compliant authority. And equally, there has been a consultation to the compliant authority from July to August, as mentioned by the Chief Executive. So you actually are fully in compliance with the Positions Council and the members of the deed. So I would actually advise cabinets you actually revisit the issue of a referendum. I appreciate it's mentioned in good faith. The same sentiments are expressed this evening. That's what expressed previously. How we move on beyond the referendum stage.
Thank you. Councillor Christopher Eggers, Welshire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would say that I am in agreement with Councillor Miller regarding his proposal, because my understanding that was if there was going to be any levy, would be brought back to the council anyway. So I'm quite happy to second the proposal by Councillor Miller. Overall, elected members are here to make some hard decisions, so it's not really for me to make a decision based on what my own belief is, but what's best for Hartlepool. And I think everyone knows my feeling with regards to the mayors. Hartlepool is not losing any decision-making powers, but is already part of the new combined authority. We've got the opportunity of making more decisions currently undertaken by central government. Surely it is better for us to make decisions equally. There's 5 councils in the Tees Valley where we are acutely aware of our ambitions and needs, rather than ministers make them in Whitehall. We have the opportunity of upwards of a £500 million programme of investment over 5 years, with the potential of additional resources through preferential access to other national funds, simply by being part of a mayoral combined authority. And whether we like it or not, it is the only show in town. In my recent meeting with the Business Minister, Sajid Javid, it was also confirmed our European Structural and Investment Funding has been confirmed until 2020, and we can only access that if we are part of the combined authority. One of the myths that needs to be quashed is that leaders have paid for being involved in the combined authority. There is no special responsibility allowance attached to any of the additional duties the leaders hold. Government guidance is that being a mayoral combined authority with the devolution deal would mean that we have an advantage in securing local growth money. We've already had £97 million in the Tees Valley, for which we received a substantial share, and £556 million has been allocated to the north in yesterday's opening statement. Overall, it provides for high levels of investment, determined locally and on a longer-term basis. I do believe the work that the leaders and the Mayor of Middlesbrough put in, they put some strong checks and balances for all the councils. It is in the interest of the whole of the Tees Valley to maintain our drive for growth and prosperity, which is why the Labour Group will support the recommendations tonight.
Very much indeed. Any further comments from members? I'm sorry, Councillor Riddle, you've already spoken once, and you're only allowed to speak. You've already spoken once. I'm sorry.
Democracy.
Members of the public are not allowed to speak. This is a council, extraordinary council meeting of members of the council, and no members of the public are allowed to speak. I'm sorry, I appreciate what you're trying to say, but you are not allowed to speak in this chamber. You are not a member of the council. You know that quite well. You know that quite well. So please don't continue.
I was trying to be polite and wouldn't.
Well, I've asked you not to speak. Thank you. Councillor Riddle. Is it a point of...
Question, Chair, about the Constitution.
I can't hear what you're saying.
It's a question about the Constitution, that's why we're here, to debate it. I have a question about it, if that's possible. I have a question about the Constitution that we're discussing tonight.
Well, the thing is, as you know, we've all agreed that you're only allowed to speak once, and you've had your once, which you're allowed.
Chair, you have discretion.
Yes, I have.
Speak again.
I have that discretion.
You don't have
Well,
to do it.
no, I'm not saying that. If you just bear with me, you better be bringing up something that's totally new and not being mentioned, because we're not going to go over things. So I'm not going to get into a free-for-all where everybody stands up and starts saying, well, he spoke again, and he spoke again, and he spoke again. So I'm not going to get into that. Okay?
You have that autonomy to chair the meeting, so if
I-
that happens, you can do it.
Well, I'm just giving you that.
Thank you.
Please, so
I have a
please be
question.
brief.
Very straightforward.
Please be brief.
If once this goes through, are we locked into this for 30 years? How long for?
A constituent member of the, in a sense, Mr. Devlin could answer this, but my understanding is that a constituent member of the Combined Authority could go through a process of removing itself from the Combined Authority during the 30-year period.
Just tell me how that would work, what time of the 30-year period.
Would you care to pick that up?
Thank you very much.
Indeed, Mr. Mayor. It is possible for a constituent authority to remove itself from combined authority. The process actually is comparable to going into combined authority. So you need to do a formal review. You need to do actually full public consultation and then take a council decision on that. Now, in regard to time periods, you may recall that the combined authority existed in the shadow form while we went through a review and full consultation. So it might well be a situation actually for a year system of approximation, but it would be to us that procedure outlined. It would be a review, a scheme, consultation, and then also a decision from council.
Thank you very much for that.
So just for clarification, if your legal opinion is get out of if we want to continue.
There is a legal power there. It's Section 7 is amended to the City's Local Devolution Act 2016.
So there is an opt-out. Thank you. Councillor Steve Davis, Welshire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that in light of the negativity I've heard this evening, I feel like there is a real smokescreen here, and it's a shame that the negativity and personalities have come into this again tonight. However, the real issue here is the fact that we are voting, whether Hartlepool should be part of a process where we have the opportunity of millions of pounds of funding. And tonight, any councillor who doesn't hold their hand up for that is sending a clear message out that they are not looking at the interests of the future of Hartlepool. We have a real interest here to look at tackling real problems, get real investment. And I would say we are seeing this in the town at the moment. This combined authority and the money came with it. Just look at Church Street, look at the new college, which is being built there.
Gentlemen, please, if I want, listen, I will ask you to leave this chamber if you don't stop shouting out, please. Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Please, Mr. Corbett, be quiet, please. Be quiet, please.
Tonight, we voted. Anybody who holds a hand up in favour of this, is voting for money coming to Hartlepool. Those who vote against have shown their true colours, that they are not interested in money or progression in this town. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, I would like to formally move that. I would like to formally...
Excuse me, Councillor, will you just carry on, please, Councillor?
You're a bloody hypocrite, aren't you, Paul?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to formally move that vote report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any...
Sorry, Chair. Before we go to the vote, I'm pleased to hear what Councillor Welch said. And if we could just, for the proposal that I made, before before that could go to suit, please.
And would you repeat your proposal so that it can be seconded officially, please?
Thank you. I propose that any proposal or decision made to place any levy on the residents of this town by a directly elected mayor be brought to this council for a decision before any is made on our behalf by the authorities represented on the cabinet.
Thank you. Was that seconded? Seconded by Councillor Christopher Akers-Belcher. Do we have to have a recorded vote or is it show of hands? Recorded vote. Please. Are you ready, please, Jill?
Is this the main substantive motion of Shane's amendment?
This is Shane's amendment.
Councillor Christopher Akers-Belcher. Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher.
4.
Councillor Barclay.
4.
Councillor Beck.
4.
Councillor Belcher. 4. Councillor Black.
4.
Councillor Clark.
4.
Councillor Cook.
4.
Councillor Cranny.
4.
Councillor Fleming.
4.
Councillor Hall.
4.
Councillor Hamilton. 4. Councillor Harrison. 4. Councillor Hind.
4.
Councillor Hunter.
4.
Councillor James. 4. Councillor Lauderdale. 4. Councillor Loynes. 4. Councillor Martin Wells.
4.
Councillor Moore.
4.
Councillor Morris.
4.
Councillor Richardson.
4.
Councillor Riddle.
Abstain.
Councillor Robinson. 4. Councillor Springer.
4.
Councillor Tennant.
4.
Councillor Thomas.
4.
Councillor Thompson.
4.
Sorry, go.
The motion was carried by a substantial majority.
Thank you. So we now move to the original substantive motion, and that is to accept the proposal. It is proposed that we accept the recommendations given tonight by the Chief Executive. We will have a recorded vote. Are you ready, please?
Councillor Christopher Akers-Belcher.
4.
Councillor Stephen Akers-Belcher.
4.
Councillor Barclay.
4.
Councillor Beck.
4.
Councillor Belcher. 4. Councillor Black.
Against. Chairman.
Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark. Councillor Cook.
4.
Councillor Cranny.
4.
Councillor Fleming. Councillor Hall.
Against.
Councillor Hamilton. 4. Councillor Harrison. 4. Councillor Hind.
Abstain.
Councillor Hunter.
4.
Councillor James. 4. Councillor Lauderdale.
Against.
Councillor Loynes. 4. Councillor Martin Wells.
4.
Councillor Moore.
Abstain.
Councillor Morris.
4.
Councillor Richardson.
4.
Councillor Riddle.
Against.
Councillor Robinson. 4. Councillor Springer.
Abstain.
Councillor Tennant.
Abstain.
Councillor Thomas.
4.
Councillor Thompson.
Against. Point of personal information, Chair.
No such thing, I'm sorry.
Explanation, sir.
No such thing. As you well know, Councillor Thompson, can I have the result of the vote, please?
The motion was
We
carried
ask
by...
whether the believer in idiot is then for a vote to stop moving.
Councillor Thompson.
Complain about members of the public, Chairman.
Please.
We've got some believer in
Councillor Thompson, please. Please, Councillor Thompson.
Chair, just for the votes on the substantive motion, it was 18 for, 5 against, and there was 5 abstentions.
So that motion is carried. We're only here tonight for that one item on the agenda, so I will officially close this meeting at 7:55. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance.